bear with me. Okay. First ever podcast. Let's get some tunes going on in the background. Very softly. All right. Studio. Hey, what's up, Michael? Hey, the chat works. Let's go. Hey, have you watched the Kenobi show? Because I'm gonna be talking about that show and all the spoilers and whatnot. But I'd like to, if you have, I'd love to talk with you about it. Can you hear me all right? Does everything sound good? Test, test. Kind of wanna. Okay, yeah, I've seen it. Okay, well, you'll have to watch this later because I'm going to talk about it, my thoughts, and you can disagree with it or agree with it. Hey guys, just popping on chat. Feel free to ask questions before we really get started. Can you guys hear the music all right? Yo, Mike, I plan on doing more of these, so you'll have to stick around. How about chat? Alright, sweet. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, but feel free to ask questions, just getting settled in before we get started. I'm definitely new to this, so I'm sure I'll make some mistakes. But we're going to be talking about Star Wars, specifically Kenobi. My overall thoughts on it, ratings. Maybe we'll go through each episode at a time, what I liked, what I disliked. Maybe even a tier list of the episodes, who knows. One of these future, be sure to tweet out when you're streaming too. Alright, sweet. Yeah, I'll probably tweet out in the future. Alright. Gosh, I am struggling to do right. I guess we'll just do this first. All right. So let's get into it. So if you're watching the VOD of this, because I hope to keep this VOD, I'm just going to say right now, I'm going to be talking about spoilers if you haven't already. I don't want people to get spoiled on stuff, so I'm warning now, and it's clearly in the title, so if you get spoiled from here on out, that is your own fault and not mine. And if you're on YouTube and haven't seen the show already and are going to complain about getting spoiled, then that's on you, man. That is on you. All right. So yeah. So I'm interested to see right now what Rotten Tomatoes has. Which episode do they rate? They rate the early episodes pretty good. It's pretty so like, hey, what's up, Hash King? How you doing? So I got the Grogu shirt on, by the way. So my overall thoughts from the Kenobi, just to say it bluntly to start, would be, I think it was a success. There definitely is an ambitious show when we're looking at such legacy characters like this. Obi-Wan, Vader. There's a lot of pressure. Thanks, man. There's a lot of pressure to do it right. And I think what's important, the most important part, is the overarching themes themselves from the show. And I think that the show accomplishes that in the end. There's definitely some touchy moments and some questionable writing at parts. But does it feel like Star Wars? Yes. Does it accomplish the goals set out? I think it does that. Does it have problems? Of course. So it first started off with those 2 episodes that they released spontaneously. We thought we were just going to get one, so we got both of them. And I think the reason they did that was a lot because the Book of Boba Fett, how they released an episode and there really wasn't a ton going on, clearly like a layup episode. I mean, there's some good background in it. But then we waited another week to get another one of these kind of more layup episodes with not a ton of action. So it seems they acknowledged that, at least Lucasfilm, and they wanted to avoid that by sending out the first 2 episodes together, because they're more layup episodes. Like, obviously I do enjoy the first episodes. They do a good job of what they're supposed to do by setting up the rest of the show. But clearly, obviously, like the third episode, a lot happens in the 3rd episode. We get to see Vader in action. Like, the ending of episode 2 is probably the best scene between those first 2 episodes. Obviously there's some questionable parts, like the Leia chase scenes are a bit drawn out. I think the second one, especially in the 2nd episode, it seems a bit unrealistic. I mean, they're both a bit unrealistic, but more so in the fact of like the reasoning. Like the first chase scene is understandable, but the second one, running from Kenobi, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, yeah, maybe she's younger, but I think she would understand that if he is a Jedi, they're going to be hunting for him, right? And even if she's younger, she'd probably understand that. Also, he probably could have just said something right away, like, or even told her that fact. So episode 1 and 2, we do get a good amount of Reva as well, which after the first 2 episodes, I'm really indifferent. Let me just say bluntly, like, Kenobi, that is my favorite character. Ewan, that's my favorite actor. So going into this series, really a lot of different emotions. Anxious for it to be good, but super excited. So that kind of had some added stakes for me. But I mean, these are a lot of people's favorite characters too. I mean, it's freaking Obi-Wan Kenobi, like the first true Jedi we see, or at least the world sees in the Star Wars universe. So we get to episode 3. After they get away from Reva, after Reva stabs the Grand Inquisitor in the stomach, the supposed second stomach. And from there, we get out onto a planet we haven't really seen. That's It's a decent planet, but I don't think there was a need to bring that planet in. Um, and you know, Vader eventually comes, and we get to see him in action. I really like that we see him just be ruthless, because I think that's how he should be at this point, just like absolutely destroying those citizens and whatnot. But a few things in those episodes really didn't make that much, or in episode 3 that really didn't make a ton of sense to me. And besides like the Vader not walking to the fire, like, yeah, that's obviously a bit questionable. I don't have as big of a problem with that as some people might, compared to a few actual plot holes in itself, and just some. So when Reva finds that place, like, I don't even have a problem with her finding where they were. Like, obviously that was pretty convenient, and I understand the plot. But Tala goes to help Kenobi, right? How does she not run into Reva along the way? Like, that tunnel is a one-path thing, and that's the same thing with Reva at the end. If Leia's already running through that one tunnel path, how does Reva get around her without already running into her? Like, that makes zero sense to me. If like, oh, there's just one entrance, one tunnel, and if Leia's already running through it, how is Reva, who started after her, how does she just pop up on the other end of it, and she's just ready for her? Like, that makes zero sense to me. That's a clear plot hole. Like, it's not like, oh, there's a different path in a tunnel. Like, no, that's a secret tunnel. That makes no sense at all, whatsoever. I think the fight between Kenobi and Vader in that episode, it's fine. It's how it probably should be. Like, obviously Kenobi's weak. I like that. I like what Vader does in it. You know, he's pretty ruthless, wants him to suffer. It makes sense. The fire, yeah, it's questionable. Like, Vader could easily go around it. But I like the idea of Vader being, you know, maybe afraid. Like, maybe that works, but again, he's on Mustafar. He lives on Mustafar, right? But I don't know. I mean, maybe if Kenobi was gotten out faster, it would make more sense, but I think they just needed to speed up that overall process. Maybe she was brought through there before as younger herself and knew where the end one was. Yeah, it's still, I get that. But then that's fine if she knows where it is. It's more so like, from what we saw, that's just a tunnel, a one-way tunnel, and like, let's say we have this tunnel here. If Leia's already going through it, how does Reva get from one end to the other without running into her? Like, the scene where we get at the end of episode 3, she has already gotten through the other side and slayed someone for Leia to run into her. Like, they would have had to cross paths already. So it doesn't really make sense in that regard. That's probably my, and it's the same thing with Tala. Like, Tala should have ran into Reva too. I'm trying to think about the order of things when they happen, because it's been a little bit since I've seen that episode, but I just know that whole tunnel situation was not written in the best way, and maybe they just didn't notice it, but I think they thought we wouldn't notice it, but I definitely would. But I kind of want to make a poll. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Ash King, and I appreciate you taking by. But so episode 4. Now, I was disappointed that episode 4 wasn't a super long episode, and honestly, that's one of my complaints with the series, is just how long the episodes are. Like, obviously we want more. I don't get why Disney and Lucasfilm are just so inclined to release like hour-long episodes when all these other big IPs do that. Like with Netflix and whatnot, don't have a problem doing that. And it's more so because I heard rumors a long ago that, or not even rumors, I thought they would say it would be a 6 hour-long episodes, which, eh. But besides that, episode 4, I really liked. It shows Kenobi. getting back into things, getting back into the swing of things. And there's some good action in there. I like the scene. I like, and then we get to see that tomb at the end, which, you know, potentially sets up future scenes with, you know, are they storing those Jedi? Are they dead, or are they alive? And is Palpatine using them? Or is the Empire using them to take some of their, you know, their Force blood, or for, you know, potential later scenes, or is that just straight up a trophy case? And I wish that there was more Jedi we could at least recognize, but like in that tomb itself. But it really did seem like, I mean, at least there were a couple different ones that we recognized. Like the old Jedi from Clone Wars. That's sad that he's in there. But I would probably rather him just had a honorable death. And I think the youngling honestly looks like one from Revenge of the Sith. I could be wrong. Like one of the when Anakin walks in the room. But I could be wrong on that. So episode 4, it was short. It was more fast paced. Like we're starting to see Kenobi get the rust off, which is great. But up until this point of the show, we're at episode 4, and there's only 2 episodes left. Where is, you know, the where are the flashbacks? You know, we've got all this hype on Hayden. How have we only seen just that little snippet in that episode 3 when he's just standing there? That makes not much sense, and that's one of my bigger complaints in the show in general. It's just more flashbacks, but we'll get into that in a second. So Obi-Wan, you know, he has to go rescue Leia after Leia is taken by Reva and brought to that Inquisitor tower. Ultimately, with the help of Tala, he gets through. I don't have as it was funny when Tala. I wish they would have shown how she actually dispatched of that officer that found out where she was and what she was doing, or was suspicious, but it kind of just off-cambered that, which seems a little bit lazy. But the escape is believable. I mean, Obi-Wan's a beast, but I mean, the trench coat, I don't know. That's kind of sus. Like that's a bit much. I don't know. Like maybe if the trench coat was bigger, or maybe if they could find a droid. Like I understand they're in a rush to get out, but how are those stormtroopers and all those officers not going to notice something different? Like they clearly look a lot. He looks different in that. And there's a little kid, or at least the shape of a kid there, and there's no kids in the Empire, right? Like, and I mean, obviously that's probably a classified mission, so like maybe the stormtroopers don't understand, but they must have sensed something was up or seen something up. And some of those disguises in general. And that brings me back to like episode 2 when all those criminals are looking for him. Like Kenobi doesn't have his hood up on that planet, which makes not a ton of sense. I mean, I guess it's been so long that he can get away with that, but it takes a while for him to put his hood on. I'm surprised as many people help him as they do without realizing who he is sooner. The overall episode 4 was okay. They escaped from there with the speeders. That's cool that they brought those back. But I thought episode 4 was good. Just a few touchy areas, but it was actually, up until that point, probably like one of my favorite episodes. I really liked the Kenobi in the dark scene when he found Leia and dispatching of those stormtroopers. I think that was a good scene. You just see a flash of blue, and one drops, and the other one drops as well. I really liked that. Now, episode 5. Episode 5 opens up in one of the best possible ways that any piece of content in Star Wars could open up with. And I'm really, really thankful for this episode. This episode is what we've been wanting, you know, within this series from the get-go. Obviously a bit salty. It took so long to get, or it took till episode 5 to get to these flashback scenes. But just happy we actually got them. That really saved it for me. So yeah, I mean, some of the scenes are meh, and we do get some big reveals, like Reva's actual, you know, intentions. We figure out that she's for sure a youngling, right? I mean, we kind of already had a good picture first couple episodes, but I think there's some of the greatest scenes in Star Wars in this episode. I mean, Vader force pulling that ship down. Are you kidding me? Like that's what we want to see, and that's super ambitious too, because we don't even see that kind of stuff in the movies. So I'm very happy that, you know, they usually play it safe and don't do these more ambitious scenes, but that is one of the best scenes I've ever seen, and those flashback scenes are exactly what we needed to get me pumped for the last episode. And yeah, there was rumors that that episode 6 was questionable, or could be questionable, but overall episode 6, I really liked it as well. And yeah, there's some areas where it's questionable canon wise, but yeah, show them the power. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. We needed them to show the actual power, because he's the most powerful Force user. At this time, I mean, obviously Palpatine would beat him in a fight, mostly due to his lightning, but like raw Force power, you know, this is Vader in his prime. Come on, we want to see that. That was awesome. And then him just totally making a mockery of Reva. I'm really happy they did that to bring it more realistic and into perspective. I thought the scene was at the end where they brought the Grand Inquisitor back. It was pretty badass, but I just don't get why they just stab her and let her go. Again, this is for plot, but I mean, she gets stabbed, and early in episode 6 she's already back and fine, and it makes more sense that she survived that. But it's just like, all right, are they just want her to survive? Like, clearly they wanted it. That's the only explanation that those two wanted her to survive. There's no way they did that with the intention of killing her. I guess they just didn't care enough, or think she was a big enough threat that it mattered, like Vader and the Grand Inquisitor. But I'm still surprised that they didn't just finish off there. But we get to episode 6, and I mean, the end of episode 5, Reva figures out that there's a boy, due to that transmitter left behind due to Haja, clumsy Haja. Also, by the way, I like Haja as a character. He's like the perfect amount of comedy for me, in a show like this. Yeah, no, I think she was definitely stabbed as a kid, which that's what I mean. Like, I don't know how she would survive that. I mean, I guess with some kind of miracle, but if Vader knows who she is and did that, like, why would he do the same thing again if she survived? Like, she'd have a higher chance of surviving now that she's older. Yeah, it looks like she definitely stabbed, because she like hid with the dead bodies. I mean, I don't know if playing dead just straight up would work without some kind of wound already inflicted. I mean, this is Vader we're talking about, right? Yeah, so we get to episode 6, and that's the plot. We got Reva, and for the kid, you know, Luke, we don't know what she wants to do. I mean, she probably wants to just get to him, right? But there's only so much can happen, just because, you know, I mean, it's not like Luke can die, it's not like Obi-Wan can die, but how does she get out of it, right? But episode 6, early, there's some problems, like that ship that the Vader Star Destroyer they're chasing. I mean, they're bombarding that ship, and if Kenobi was trying to draw him out, like, and Grand Inquisitor, like, I'm kind of agree with him, like, you know, they gotta follow them, but like, why not just send Vader's ship to follow Kenobi, and the Star Destroyer would follow that ship anyway? Like, there's no reason that ship should get away. Like, the only way that they could have fixed that is somehow Kenobi takes a fighter pilot, like his ship, to the Star Destroyer to distract him, do some damage, buy time for that ship to get away, and then lead Vader away. That's how it should go. And I understand, like, I don't care as much that, oh, they didn't send reinforcements to help out Vader. Like, no, he asked to. This is him and his old master. That's the fight, and I really liked it. Could it have used better music? Yes. Could the show overall have used better music? Yes. But I really liked it. We see Kenobi, like, not to say like this is the most powerful Kenobi ever, but in the moment of the fight, in that second half of the fight, this is the strongest Kenobi we ever see. No TIE fighters are played to chase after the ship also. Yeah, like, just try not to think about it too much. I guess. But yeah, there's some serious plot holes in that. Like, that ship should not be surviving unless they do some damage or distract the fleet, or Kenobi would do some damage or something. Like, I actually thought, oh, is he going to fly onto the ship and fight on the ship or something? I'm like, that's a possibility, but, I mean, that would not end too well. But Kenobi goes absolutely ballistic. I mean, I like the kind of little Rocky scene with Leia. I think in that moment, that would have been the best moment to have that Qui-Gon voice in his head. Tell him, you know, Kenobi, you must finish this. Or something, I don't know. Or get up or something. But I liked the scene overall. They did a good job with, like, it's like a Rocky scene thinking about Leia and gotta make sure to protect her. Kenobi ultimately wins, and that performance by Hayden, really, really solid. It was nice to see in live action, behind the mask, Hayden Christensen / Anakin Skywalker, you know. We see this in Rebels, and I think they do a really good job. I think like Star Wars in general is easier in an animation standpoint. Like, I think that's pretty obvious. So for them to be able to do this, and just in general, do a pretty good job with it. Yeah, like, I really liked that, and the acting was really, really good from Hayden there in that scene. You really feel the hate in him saying, "No, I killed Anakin," right? It's really special and cool in that regard. Then Obi-Wan feels a disturbance of the Force, thinks of Luke, eats back there. I really don't get why Luke's aunt and uncle, why can I not? Owen and, kind of irk me to not know the girl's name. Owen and Beru. We'll just say the Lars. The Lars. The Mrs. Lars thinks that they have a chance against a lightsaber user, any type of Force user. Like, that's just unrealistic. It was pretty valiant, I won't say. Like, they tried to get her by surprise, but being that they shot at her after she ignited her lightsaber, it's too late. Like, the only way they win that is if they shoot her in the back when she doesn't have a lightsaber, or just in the back in general. Like, I don't know. They should have just ran, but you know, we understand it from an arc standpoint, I guess, a plot standpoint, and in the end, we get Reva coming full circle, chases Luke. I feel like Obi-Wan and the Lars have failed at this point. Like, Luke's toast if Reva wants to happen. So, but Reva ultimately doesn't make that choice and spares Luke and seems to appear to go to the light side. Now, do I think Kenobi should probably still have dealt with her? Yes, because she's too unpredictable, you know? If we look at the Kenobi and Maul scene, granted, he really knows Maul, and obviously Maul's malicious and unpredictable in Rebels, but I mean, as soon as he mentions anything about knowing the kid and knowing the significance of the kid, Kenobi goes he goes sicko mode. Like, he's not letting Maul survive. So yeah, I think how get around that plot hole is Luke hits his head, and we'll just say that I can give a mulligan in a place like that. If someone hits their head. And the end of the movie is really special. It really does feel like Star Wars. Like, that hello there, coming from Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor. That feels really, really good. And the talk with Leia. that works. Like they make it work with canon for the most part. Obviously, like that's not how it was intended from George Lucas. Like the Leia scene, like help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like you helped my father in the Clone Wars, blah blah blah. Like at that point, I don't think she would be worried about his protection. But you know, they did a decent job with, like, you know, if she wanted to still be worried about his protection, then she wouldn't say as much in that regard. Is it cool at the end to see Liam Neeson, Qui-Gon Jinn, Force Ghost? Yes, obviously that's cool. Does this go against canon? Yes. Am I okay with it? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I just wish that they had. It just at times it feels like they have the people that write this stuff just don't have as great of an understanding of the Star Wars lore as they should, though. And it really does look like it sets up for a second season, or at least some kind of episodes, some kind of limited series episodes of him training with Qui-Gon. But it also, you know, they don't close the door or shut the door with that scene. Like, if they wanted to end it there, like the rest is to our imagination with Obi-Wan, you know, training, and that's fine. If they do another season, I wanted him to return for sure. Like, he needed to. It's just he technically was not able to recreate his body in the previous canon. I mean, that's retconned now because he didn't finish his training with the Wills. But him getting but he did enough that he could retain his presence via his voice. But I think we see this a little bit in Clone Wars. This is where we figure that out. But, you know, who's to say he can't learn if he still has some kind of conscious that's retained? Who's to say he couldn't get that over time? So I'm fine with it. And maybe they'll do some, you know, spin-off, like 4-6 episode series, even maybe like a 1 episode special, or maybe even like some crazy movie with Obi-Wan, and just in general learning about the Force Ghost world. Like, I want to see in Star Wars more about Force Ghosts, what it's like to be a Force Ghost, that process, and, you know, what is it to be a Force Ghost? Like, what do they see? What is that world like? It's got to be some kind of otherworldly thing, right? But overall, they finished the show strongly. Is that I think, like, from an overall standpoint, my favorite moments in the show were in episode we're probably in episode 6, but it's tough to take a favorite. Like, the flashback scenes could be my favorite. Vader pulling down that ship, that could be my favorite. But I mean, that fight was pretty dang cool. Like, or even the Hallel there, right? I think episode 5 was probably the most consistently good. Because, I mean, yeah, like, I don't have a problem with, like, episodes 1 or 2, but it's hard to give early episodes like the best episode of a show, because they can't really mess it up too much when it's the early episode. You know, it's really just they're setting up, they're laying it down for the rest of the show. So if I'm considering, we'll say episodes 3 to 6, what's the best candidate for the best episode, I think you can only really go with 5 or 6. I think episode 5 was the most consistently good, the most good consistently content throughout. I think that's the best overall episode, but the season finale, that second half, had better overall moments though. So I'd probably say that, I'm not sure if my eyes are playing good lightsaber blades, but do the lightsaber blades look? Yeah, they're much brighter. There's much more color to it. Like, even that picture to the side of me, like, that's how lightsabers are supposed to look, but they're like his lightsaber is very blue, um, which is, yeah, it's a bit weird. I don't have that big of a deal with it. Like I know it's different, but I mean it's cool to see them in the dark. But it almost looks lower quality to some regard. Like almost you could do that with some kind of fan film. Yeah. As far as my episode rating would go, between let's say those four, because I'm going to exclude the first two episodes. I think they're fine. I heard the first episode. But that second end of episode 2 had a good scene in it. But we'll say those are bottom 2, just because they're the first episode of the show. But I think my fourth favorite episode of the show, it was probably episode 4. It was short, but I mean fourth episode. Oh, sorry, I said that wrong. My fourth favorite was probably episode 3, even though we see Vader. And there's some great moments, and obviously that first fight, just the inconsistency and plot holes that really bring down that rating for me. I still really liked it. I just wish they had more regard to those errors. The third best, I would say, is the episode 4. Like, I liked it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it looks like fan film lightsabers, to be honest. I just don't really know why that is. I mean, obviously they're darker in color, but I don't know why. But yeah, episode 3 rated at 4. Episode 4 I'll rate it at 3. I just liked it. We see some good Kenobi action. It's a little bit more realistic. It's hard for me not to rate the finale first with just all those great moments. Really, that fight and Kenobi goes sicko mode, like on Vader. It's insane. It's hard to pick between the two for sure, but I think I'm just gonna say that it's a tie, and that episode 5 was more consistently good, while episode 6 had better individual moments. I mean, obviously the finale fight, but I mean we get flashbacks and throughout the episode in episode 5 and great ending to that as well. And I'm gonna be honest, while I was first watching episode 6, like halfway through I'm like, this is really bad. Like, that's my honest thoughts. Like the finale, about halfway through I was like, this is really, really bad. Like, this is gonna break canon, this is gonna suck. Like, there's already a ton of plot holes with like the Star Destroyer and stuff, and I was already like in a negative mindset. But the second half really redeemed it. And when I mean redeemed, I mean like full redemption. Enough for me to ignore the other problems in that episode. Maybe not enough for me to ignore the problems in the show overall, but enough to redeem that episode fully, and really, really great scenes towards the end. And I would be open to at least some kind of either spin-off or few episodes or even a movie with Qui-Gon and Force Ghosts just in general with Kenobi. Obviously I want to see more Aiden and Obi-Wan though, like actual like Clone War flashbacks, training, more of that please. My overall rating of the show, I can't say an exact number because I'm still gonna rewatch. But I think it's like how I rate Star Wars. I don't rate it like other shows because it's my number one thing. I rate it as far as how true it is to Star Wars, like a variety factor. How true it is to Star Wars. Does it feel like Star Wars, right? The quality of the show overall, and plot and other things. But like how, like, it's kind of like a Star Wars rating, and I would say it falls somewhere between 8 and 9. Like, there's definitely way too many. It could go as low as 7.5, but it caps out at 9. There's too many plot holes and weird moments for it to be anywhere above 9. I think realistically, I'd probably end up in the low 8s, like 8, 8.5, which is a great rating for me. And I'm really happy with what we got. They didn't screw the pooch. Where's the stars? Kenobi left the planet. Yeah. Just don't think about it, alright? Don't think about it. I mean, maybe he, I don't know, maybe he had a light speed on that thing. Maybe he had light speed on the single ship, but not the full ship. So you could get away with that by saying that. In any case, 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's definitely not bad. But there's a few too many plot holes. Like the best moments in the show are clearly 10 out of 10, but there's some that like are actually laughably bad, even from a Star Wars perspective. But I'd probably give it like an 8.2, 8.5, somewhere in there. Probably settle on a rating after I watch it a bit more. And overall, I'm happy with what they gave us. We've got Andor coming out in late August. I'm excited with that. The trailer looks great. Yeah, it's better than Boba Fett, but I'm not as big of a Boba Fett maybe hater as some. Like I just don't like the inconsistency of Boba Fett. Like that episode 3, the worst. It's probably the worst piece of content of Star Wars I've ever seen. But you didn't see that. But yeah, let's talk about Book of Boba Fett a little bit. But I actually did like the first episode. Like it was nice to see. I liked the whole like Boba with the Sand People, and you know the arc of him getting his ship back. But that episode 3 was just horrendous. I didn't like what was going. Like obviously it wasn't a ton of action, and why are we just stuck on Tatooine? Although episode 5 and 6, like episode 6, that might be the best piece of Star Wars I've ever seen, though, to be fair. Episode 5 was amazing too. Like I was literally like shitting my pants seeing it. So even having those 2 episodes in it, I can't rip the Book of Boba Fett too bad. And my take is that the finale is not as bad as people say. There were some really, really good scenes, like the music with Boba and Mando back-to-back fighting against the Syndicate. That's one of the best scenes in that show, and definitely up there in Star Wars for me. Did I want more from it? Yes. Did I want other characters? Yes. Grogu having to choose between the lightsaber and that, like, yeah, I get that he's gonna pick the armor, but it just felt so rushed. Like we get left off with a cliffhanger in episode 6, and then we just get shoved into the next episode with him on an X-wing. Like I seriously thought we were gonna see Luke. Yeah, where is Han? where's Kira? Where are the other like important druggy like syndicate people in Star Wars, like the crime lords? You know, I really, really liked Cad Bane in it, and the ending fight wasn't too bad. I just wanted a bit more. But yeah, Boba for me was like would be like a 7 out of 10, a 6.5, a 7 out of 10, where Kenobi's in the 8.5 for me. It's like similarly good to. It's almost as good as Mandalorian season 1, but with too many problems. Or like I liked it almost as much as Mandalorian season 1, or in some areas more. Yeah, and I'm trying to be more fair with it. Like I really thought that a lot of Boba was good, but it had some really bad moments that brought it down. Like that episode 3, like I think I just tried to forget about it. Yeah, I would say Kenobi is a bit of a step up from Boba, though albeit not that much. No Mandalorian season. God's work. That's insane. I mean, Mandalorian in general. I mean, this isn't new news. Really excited for season 3 of that. Andor, I'm excited for that. We should see some Vader in that, potentially some Kenobi as well. Like, hopefully we're seeing some of the characters brought in these shows in more of the other shows. Like, that's the hope. If you haven't watched the Bad Batch season 2 trailer, that gets me hype. I've watched it a couple times now. Like I'm getting pumped up looking at that. Like I'm excited for that. And we got Mandalorian season 3 in Feb, and sometime after that Ahsoka. So we've got a lot of stuff coming out, and I'm really excited for the current direction of Star Wars. their execution needs to be better, Lucasfilms, and it's not without its problems, but I'm currently satisfied, and I hope that it continues to improve and they don't make as many big mistakes. And I mean, go with the positive messages, like at the end of episode 6, like less politically messages, and more the positive and uplifting episodes that Star Wars is really meant for. But yeah, I'm happy for that. Overall, Kenobi, somewhere in the 8s, 8 out of 10. I liked it a lot, but it definitely had a good amount of flaws. But overall, satisfied with it, and they did good service. Treated my favorite character well, and I'm excited to see what we get moving forward. I don't have a whole lot else to talk about. I could probably talk a bit longer, but I just want to get a feel at this whole podcast thing, and we'll be doing more of these in the future, because there's lots of good content in the content world coming out anyway. Like, Star Wars is probably my favorite thing, so that's why I started out with this, but with these, I want to talk about a variety of things. I want to talk about the upcoming Lord of the Rings show, Rings of Power. You know, all things, you know, Game of Thrones type stuff. Yeah, I'm currently rewatching The Hobbit, and gonna rewatch Lord of the Rings to prepare for that. And it's crazy that in late August we get Andor. I think it's like August 21st for that. Like August 31st, we get House of Dragon, which is the prequel to Game of Thrones, if you don't know what that is. And September 2nd is Rings of Power. So there's so much juicy stuff coming out in that time frame. Like, why couldn't it just come out a little bit earlier? But it will give me time now, I guess, to catch up on just the more standard, not as juicy shows out there. And maybe watch some new ones. Like, I really haven't watched much of Stranger Things. I should probably watch that. But that's going to be all to conclude this first podcast. If you guys are watching this after the fact, I really appreciate you sticking by. And I understand this is one of my first times doing this, so I hope to continue to improve in doing this. And yeah, they're doing a Jon Snow show. I'd love to talk about that, as well as other potential options in the future. Well, Hash King, huge shout out to you for sticking by and making this entertaining, so I could talk with you. And yeah, I hope to see more of my subscribers live, so that you guys can. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on Star Wars in general and questions, because it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, I am gonna head out. Have a good rest of your day, Hash King. See you guys in the next one. This is Bismo signing out.